regret having the black pieces? That's the big question. The games are beginning. 5 extra minutes for Magnus Carlsen could be decisive. He needs to win, however. Magnus, with white, plays the Spanish.
It's the Spanish on the board, and we're going to quickly jump into Toronto with Levy and James and their thoughts on the bids we saw and the opening that we're seeing right now.
Thanks, Tanya. Yeah, the opening, definitely a bit of a surprise. I mean, we have some sort of weird, we have an open Spanish, which I think is definitely in Fabiano's wheelhouse. I just want to say something. We were going to stand here as commentators and say, wow, Magnus bid 10. That was his max. He knew Fabi was going to bid 958. And then he said, I had no idea what to write.
It was funny, yeah.
Because, you know, I was going to be like, oh, that's such a brilliant read by Fabi. And then he just goes, yeah, I had no clue. They have so little time to make that decision.
That's true, brother. It's very quick. I mean, and of course, 9:58. Usually you see Magnus is the one that does it. Like, Magnus is the one that always outbids you by 1 or 2 seconds here. So, Fabi may have a little mental edge here. You see how Magnus was pissed. Basically, you can just tell this is not the friendly Magnus right now. He's trying to close out.
And I do just want to say, this open Spanish, as we're about to throw it back there to Oslo for them to get into the X's and O's, this is an open Spanish. This is not a closed Spanish. Black has taken the pawn on e4.
Right.
Lots of theory here.
Right.
So Fabiano, despite the time disadvantage, is going to get to play a ton of moves that he already knows.
100%.
And then after that, it's just maybe 3 or 4 critical decisions.
Correct.
He might be in good shape.
I think it's a great choice as well. Open Spanish, you get a lot of moves in, as Norderbeck said before. When you're going to, you know, you need to get to like move 60s, you get that extra time and stuff like that. So this is going to be exciting, especially with having open Spanish. So.
Yeah, man, we might have two tiebreaker matches today. All right, Oslo, take it away.
Thanks, guys. James, you're right. No increment until move 60 for the players, after which they get a 1 second increment. Now, Fabi gets the result odds. The draw odds starts with 9 minutes 58 seconds on the clock. And to me, that's a pretty good bargain.
Yeah, I think he's done everything right in the opening. Levy and James there kind of referred to it, the open Spanish. It's one of the most forcing lines as well in chess in general. Like, Fabiano, he gets black, gets draw odds, gets an opening he knows, in and out. Tension will be minimal here. Feels like everything's gone right for him. Still early stages, but I'm loving what Fabiano's done with the bid and with the opening.
Fabiano does have one unhappy memory, though, on the black side of an open Spanish, and that occurred in Madrid last year against Hikaru Nakamura. It was an open Spanish, a forcing line, a material imbalance. Fabiano lost that game, and with it, his chances at a world championship title. But we see in this game, he is solid in the center. That knight on e4 looks like it's under attack, but that just leads to a series of exchanges that black is not unhappy about. And after knight to d2, I've been wondering, can at some point black push the f pawn? It looks a little bit risky. Maybe instead he should put his bishop out on f5, and it resembles what Norderbeck and Wesley had in their match, this tension on the e4 square.
And to release that tension, you can trade pieces, and you can start with trading the knights and then put the bishop on f5 as you suggested, trying to get rid of as many minor pieces as possible. A draw would mean that Fabi wins the match. Magnus with white has to create his chances.
He has to, but how? He pauses now when the most obvious recapture would be by developing white's bishop. The white dark square bishop on c1 hasn't moved. Why not take back this black knight? But Magnus, he's looking for something creative, because at some point he'll need to surprise Fabiano. He'll need to switch it up, maybe hit him with a kind of shocking, unexpected move, and maybe he takes with the queen to try and bring the white queen closer to the king side. But either way, I still love black's position and black's chances in this game. The clock differential now reduced to only 4 minutes.
And material might reduce if he takes with the bishop on d2, just developing his undeveloped bishop. styles of play. You can see Magnus. He needs to regroup right now. And just like yesterday when he's going to sacrifice his queen, Fabiano finding a desperate try, but he pushes a pawn, does Magnus Carlsen. He trades off a pair of rooks. G7 is now loose. So Magnus, despite the initial shock, he still found the best continuation.
That's where having time on the clock is such a lifesaver. Here, Fabiano simply doesn't have enough time. Down to just over 1 minute. We're only a move 33, increment a distant dream. It's going to be a race on the clock, even if he weren't losing this position. But it does unfortunately look like that white e-pawn is going to decide matters. White's king now given enough air to survive on its own. It will take care of itself. The other white pieces will get the job done. And okay, he's sliding behind. Good try from Fabiano, trying to put his rook behind a pass pawn. That's what we're taught in all positions, but it's just collapsing. The g-pawn is now up for grabs.
And don't take it with the rook, because if you take that pawn with the rook, the king steps aside, hitting the knight on the 8. The knight can't move because it's the only piece defending that rook over there. So Magnus still has his work cut out for him. Fabiano's creating a challenge, but now that pawn is one square away from promotion, and I think it's going to get to the other side.
Magnus Carlsen taking his time. This could very well be Fabiano Caruana's very last moments in the Champions Chess Tour final. You can see it in him. And Magnus knows he's close to victory in this one. Fabi pushes the f-pawn. Is there a knight jump? Knight moving to c7. Do you have the path right now to get that e-pawn to e8?
Perhaps, although the black knight goes back to f6 and holds things for now. That's why Fabiano has vacated the f6 square with his pawn thrust, but it is desperation. Magnus doesn't need to break kind of this formation. Actually, black is stuck. Black can barely move anything at all. The white knight jumping out the way, you can play that at will later on. Maybe he'll play it now, maybe he'll move the knight. You can even take the g7 pawn if you want to be really flashy with the white knight. But I'm expecting Magnus to just take a calm approach, not allow any counterplay or any tricks at all.
Fabiano's down to 42 seconds, and this may be the last 42 seconds of his entire event here. If he loses, he's eliminated. Look at that move, g5, taking away that knight's backtrack.
Beautiful move from Magnus Carlsen there, just removing any defensive hope at all. Look at Fabiano in pain. Oh, he's got no time, simply under 30 seconds now.
And I think he's just coming to terms with everything that's happening, because it is not just about losing. To guard that e-pawn from promoting, there's a check on f3, but I think it's only a check. And Magnus needs to pause, calculate, he does it, he realizes that knight f3 is just a check, grabs that g7 pawn, and it's handshakes. Fabiano Caruana is eliminated. Magnus Carlsen stamps his ticket to the finals.
And what a great game there from Magnus. He even missed a tactic. He was shaken, but he was able to regain his composure. He eliminates Fabiano Caruana, but congratulations are in order to Magnus Carlsen. He moves through to the finals without a third set being necessary.
And you can see the disappointment on Fabi. It was quite the start to the Armageddon. He got the black pieces, he had enough time, and he got the opening that he was hoping for. Then Magnus Carlsen gets the job done, and there's a spring in his step.
Yep, he's in the final. He's relieved after